So welcome back. This is part 2. So the definition of a pedophile is adult whose primary abuse is toward children. Pedophile literally means love of children. And why don't children tell? Okay? They feel responsible. Remember, children are egocentric. In other words, they think that the whole world revolves around them, and that's a natural stage of a child's life. They feel like they won't be believed. Again, that's why it's really important to talk to children about, about boundaries, about if this happens to them. They fear they will be blamed or punished. Or remember in the last PowerPoint, their families will be blamed. And they're embarrassed. Okay, they're embarrassed. Why did this happen to me? Why did I let this happen? Particularly if it might be a child who is a little bit older. And believe it or not, they might not know it is wrong. So that's why it's very important to talk to children about various forms of child abuse. When they do tell, they tell when they meet someone who they trust, who appears to already know. Okay, so you could suspect it. And remember, the law for reporting says that you have reasonable cause to suspect. You don't know definitely. And if they think someone is safe and will believe them. So it's really important to project that persona of a safe person and a person who will believe the child. And sometimes they tell when they, cannot no longer tolerate the physical symptoms, they become unbearable. And when they do tell, sometimes they want to protect another child. Maybe they're thinking, I don't want the predator to go after someone else in my family or a friend of mine. When they feel someone will protect them, this person will help it to stop. When they receive sexual abuse information and learn that the abuse is wrong and never the child's fault. So with any form of child abuse, it is very important to project to the child it is not their fault. And what is the degree of trauma? It depends on the type of abuse, the identity of the perpetrator, which most of the time it's someone that the child knows. How long did the abuse go on? And the extent of the abuse. The age of the child is important. First reactions of others at the initial disclosure. So if people are really horrified and acting like it's the child's fault, that is going to be, re-traumatize the child. And the timing of the disclosure, how long after it happened, or was it when the child was a teen or an adult? When did they choose to reveal this? And the personality structure of the victim. Okay, that has, a lot to do with it too, depending what the personality is, what kind of family the child came from, are there protective families, there are protective factors in the family also. And the perpetrators, 50 to 70% of them were victimized as children. So for them, I know this is hard to believe, but they think that this is almost normal. Okay? They deny and rationalize their actions. Well, this is a way for me to get affection, because remember, they're looking at the child as property and not as another live human being. They lack empathy. They're just totally incapable of putting themselves in another person's place. They use sex to maintain their own equilibrium. Okay, this is their way of finding love, happiness. The fixated offender, what we call the fixated offender, is emotionally fixated in adolescence. They prefer boys. Okay, they prefer boys, and a lot of times boys do not tell. Again, society has told us that males, people who identify as males, are supposed to be strong. Society tells them that. And regressed offender, after tentative adult adjustment, they regress to focusing on young females for sexual abuse. Okay, so there's different kinds of perpetrators. Intrafamiliar perpetrators can be fathers. Often they have poor impulse control, low frustration tolerance. So if a child's acting out, they have faulty ego operations. They don't have a strong ego. And they use rationalization. They use denial. Well, it's not all that bad. And they use manipulation. Females are often more emotionally disturbed, according to the literature. Sometimes they view the daughter as an extension of themselves and not as a separate human being. And they're more likely to abuse females. And co-abusers can be involved with their own children. So in other words, both males and females abusing. Extra familiar perpetrators, people outside the immediate family, they have experienced more childhood physical abuse. They may have experienced sexual abuse themselves. So again, this is how they relate. Studies show that assault from a family member produces aggressive behavior such as rape. Again, they think this is normal. And they have, growing up, they probably had no one to confide in, no one to teach them how to be assertive, no one to actually tell them this is wrong behavior. And peer relationships are centered around antisocial activities. And obviously, this would be a huge antisocial activity. And an assault from a non-family member can create an individual who abuses children. Somebody who's really addicted to sex can develop a delusional thought process. I say he because most of the abusers are males, according to the literature. He denies, rationalizes, and begins to believe their own lies. Male perpetrators can be fixated or regressed, as we defined earlier. Offenders generally, and again, I'm saying this all according to peer-reviewed literature research, the youths can be sexually compulsive. They have a disturbed, impulsive youth, and they're influenced by the group. They may even tell other people what they've done in their group, and they say, "Oh, good for you." So, kind of like group. So, some preconditions for abusing: there's emotional congruence. In other words, the perpetrator needs the child to satisfy their own emotional need, which comes from, and they need to feel in control because they have not been shown proper love and affection. So therefore, they don't develop correctly emotional development. They're sexually aroused by the child, and they have blockage of normal outlets for sexual and affection needs because, again, they have never been taught or experienced them in their family. And so you may be thinking, what are some of the, kind of cures or coping mechanisms? They would need, the perpetrators particularly, would need lots of counseling, as with the children. There's in Schenectady, New York, it's called the Child Advocacy Center. And when a call comes in that a child has been sexually abused, that's it's crime. So it goes through the police department. They report it through the Child Advocacy Center. And there are certain ways you interview a child who has been sexually abused. So they have actually caseworkers, social workers, who are specifically trained to do that. So if you're interested in something like that, look up the Child Advocacy Center. There's one practically in every county in New York State that is grant funded. And so we've come far in realizing that, sexual abuse also includes, obviously, it's physical abuse, it's emotional abuse, so it's the most egregious of all the abuses. So look up Child Advocacy Center, okay? So this concludes this, and this, I know this is very, very short and very, very, there's whole courses offered on this. But please listen to the video that will give you some more insight, okay? And if anybody has any questions, please send them to me through course development, or if you're on campus, I'd love to meet some of you, okay? Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next recording.